Alright, welcome back everybody. We have a pen here in front of you, and this is just a different pen. I know, I think in the last video I promised to do the Parker 61, but just to kind of keep things interesting and, you know, not let some of my extra pens just sit there while I kind of go through my list of filling systems, I figured I'd break one out just to kind of do a before and after and practice a few little skills on something. And I've actually been doing, for some reason, I don't know why, and I do like the brand, but I've gotten quite a few Conklin pens recently. Actually several of these, which, let's see, I'll twirl it around, see if you can take a guess before I tell you what it is. It's a very cigar-shaped or torpedo-shaped pen with a little conical tip, maybe a little bit of coning at the bottom, a little section with see-through area, and yeah, well, okay, no, I did give you the fact that it's Conklin, but will it focus? Conklin Toledo. This is a glider. Yep, probably around 1938 or so, after the not Toledo company, but the Conklin company was kind of not doing so great, so it sold its warehouse, its supplies, and its name to a Chicago-based company. So this is kind of marking the territory where Conklin is not what it used to be, with its crescent fillers and its nose sacks and all that good stuff. So, but despite that, despite it kind of being a lower tier pen, as Conklin kind of drew back from the big five, I still like these pens. I don't know why. I like the striations, and there still is kind of very vintagey kind of feel to them. Like, this is a pen made into the 40s that felt probably like an older pen. Maybe that's why I like it. I do like old stuff. But these, you know, not the greatest tier pens for such a good brand such as Conklin, but the gripe about these is, I mean, they're not very well made, sadly. They have this clip that, rather than being the classic Conklin springy clip, it's just bolted in, rather than having that kind of short or Conklin branded lever. It's just this thin one that, you know, I mean, I actually kind of like the look of it. It's just kind of simple, streamlined lever. And then, of course, you have trim, which had gold plating that was almost ridiculously thin. They talk about how often, like, most of the pens you'll find have like pretty significant plating loss, and this one even has a good deal of corrosion on that clip there. You can still see the Conklin if I can get in the right light. It's still there, but we'll see it when it cleans up. The cap band, similarly, not much. There's like nothing left on there, and it does rotate a little bit, which, you know, I'm not going to fault it for that. A lot of bands kind of lose their adhesion as some of the celluloid shrinks and stuff. So I've had Parkers with issues like that. So that I won't fault it on too much, other than just being probably a shitty cap band, losing all its gold plating, and feeling rather thin, to be honest with you. The imprint is still pretty sharp on this one. And I don't know, I'm maybe because I have a different background, but there, oh, maybe. Can I get the imprint? Maybe. I mean, it's kind of nice in a way. If I had a good picture, I'll take a better picture and see if I can put it in the video. But the Conklin, what does it say? Conklin something? I can't, I'm not going to try it without being able to get closer to it. But the script has a couple little flourishes in it, like it kind of, the C, yeah, I looked at it earlier, the Conklin, maybe pen company, but some of the letters do have a little bit of flair to them, so I do like that. And this is, it does say Chicago. Trust me, it does say Chicago, because when I compared it to the nib just says Conklin Toledo, which apparently the only saving grace that people really kind of do pick up these pens for is the nib. They used a cushion nib, C-U-S-H-O-N, and that was like the high quality 14 karat gold nib that they used for these particular ones, and they do write really nicely. Actually, one of my current carries is a blue version of this and has the cushion point. Apparently we're not getting that, we're getting just the Toledo nib. And when I took a look, and again, it's going to be hard to focus, so I'll describe it, take my word for it, and I'll see if I can get some pictures in there. But when I feel this, it's pretty scratchy, like, uh-oh, what's going on at the tip. So I take a look with the loop, and let me see, let me get oriented. I think, because I can't see over the camera, I think it was the right tine. As you look down on it, the right tine. But the tipping material is gone, and the right tine is definitely chipped and gouged out. That maybe it could be salvaged with re-tipping. I don't know. I've never been able to, I've never re-tipped, and I think maybe that's the next thing I'm going to look into, if I can see if that's a home process or if that's just too industrial and too chemical, so I might not be able to do it. But I at least figured that, I mean, this is a low-cost pen. I think I got this for probably $10 on eBay. Another good reason to kind of see what I can do to make it shine up. But imagine that I could probably take a little Dremel tool and see if I can make this into like a fine italic. Just trying to square that off and take some micro mesh to kind of smooth it a little bit. So imagine that's what I'll do. I've not used the Dremel tool before, like a cutting disc or grinding disc or anything, so that may be this trial that I'm going to do now. But usually what I've done in the past is use my micro mesh and start with not the coarsest grit, but a few pads into the fine, kind of starting to get coarse, and just kind of done my scribbles, checked in the loop to see kind of how flat I'm getting. And I think I've salvaged a couple decent nibs with this. And it's a 14 karat nib, so it's going to be soft. I think it's going to take it well. It won't have any super hard edges if I can work with it. And I think I can salvage it to do something with it. I have done this on some cheaper steel nibs, just the micro mesh smoothing, and it's so hard, I think, to kind of get those edges off so they constantly cut into the paper, and they're not great, but maybe it's the 14 karat that actually saves me when I try to do it for these. So, long enough introduction. This is just me trying to see if I can make an old pen kind of shine up well, use some gold plating to kind of make everything pop one more time, give it a little bit of a life, and see what I can do with the nib. So let's go ahead and start. I do have my handy hair dryer. I have my hair dryer handy, let me say it that way. And I figure we'll be a little bit into the process. I mean, it's a lever filler, it shouldn't take that long as this heats up and comes off fairly easily. But let's go ahead and give this a heat. And I don't know, I mean, let me see. I'm not sure. This may be, I mean, if this is 1938, this is probably still celluloid. Man, I wouldn't expect it to be plastic, I don't think, just yet. But I will say that, I don't know if I've said this out loud before, but I tend not to, I mean, I'll give it a little twist. Like, if it's easy, but I try not to start with cold celluloid or cold plastic. I just go ahead and start heating most of everything. If it gives me any resistance, I go ahead and heat that joint up, because I don't want anything to be brittle or crack. And it is winter time here, and I'm in a corner that's kind of on the outside wall, so it's a little chillier, but I don't think that's going to matter. But let's heat this up. Doing this, but let's see. I wonder if I should dare use these things. This is where I would put something here to try to protect it, so I'll double that up, and then we'll see what we can do. Okay, and I got very lucky. So I think I showed you these before, and I just everywhere I look tends to be out of stock of these, but these do have the rubber worn away. And so I just took my grippy pad, folded it once. Did I fold it twice? I don't even know. Did I have enough? I don't know. Maybe I at least folded it once. I don't know what I just did. That's pretty sad. And just did my best to protect it. And so gave it a firm grip. Actually had the position the other way, but I was just doing this off camera and it finally gave way. So I got lucky. I don't think I got any gouges in it this time. And it came out and there's no crack on the side. So mission accomplished, and I got very lucky. So let's take those off. Do as I say, not as I do. Never use pliers, of course. And let's see. Let's go ahead and let's see if there's anything to dump out. Nothing comes right out, and of course there's nothing on the sack nipple. But let's dig around, see if there's anything. Ooh, I think I feel it. Maybe I do. Nope. Time for the light. Let me just take a peek inside. Yeah, it's in there. Got to reach way down to get it though. Let's see. Will that get it away from the wall? If I put a little pressure on the bar, will that give me something to grab onto? Not this time. May have to soak that and scrub it out. Well, yeah. I wish maybe you can see it, but there's that little thick thing in there. Like it's a really ossified thick sack, but it's not super brittle. And I'm kind of afraid to squeeze that lever too much. But yeah, it looks like the sack is really well adhered to the side of the wall. I'm flexing the lever a little bit and it kind of pulls away. Maybe, yeah, barely. It's barely moving that because I can see the pivoting pressure bar in there. Let's give it one more shot. I might just do this off camera. Anything? Holy cow. I've never had one this hard before. That's what she said. Sorry about that. Yeah. Another good reason to have a good light source, because it's sometimes hard to peer over into the barrel. I hooked it. Had it for a second. Come on. Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like tar. Like I can bend it now. But yeah. Okay. But I seem to have lost my good grip on it. Okay, I think I may have it. Nope. Maybe I should take a pick and see if I can pick at it just to get it into pieces to fall out. That'd be my next move, I think. Soak it or do the pick method. Well, maybe I actually pushed it back. Dang it. I actually think I moved the bar with it. Yeah. Let me try that. Let me see if I can take out the pressure bar, because that seems to have fallen out a little bit, got off track. Let me take it from the camera for a second. into the problem solving bit. Something's not going as expected, so now we have to figure out what to do. That's kind of the fun part. Keeping in mind like what tools you have, what are the limitations of your tools, or even limitations of your material, right? So how much strain or stress can you push or pull and do to a pen? So I'm going to see if I can take a piece of wire just to see if that catches an edge before I get too aggressive with anything. It's not doing it. It's also a thick wire. Now let's take another peek, and maybe I'll use the good old dental pick. Of course, once I put the light down, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going by the memory of what I saw, because I don't have a good permanent light source to look in here. That one's a little curved, so let me take the other side, which is a little longer, so maybe I can get into the barrel. Oh, just a little bit better, so that was good. I'm going to give it a ream to see if I can get into this. There it goes. Oh yeah. Yeah, it didn't become brittle, it's just like tar-like, and oh yeah, that is weird. Okay, we got it. Let's see. Yeah, and there's my J-bar. It's kind of moved off to the side, so I'm gonna have to pull that out at some point. Let me see if I can pull it out right now, because I do have my little, I think these are called alligator forceps. Find my light. So where am I sticking this? Yeah. Ugh, that's my battery going dead on this. Maybe just a bad connection. There we go. Shake it, it works. Okay, right there at the bottom. I'm going to take the little non-pivoting part, and that's what I'm going to try to get under that J-bar. Well, had it for a second. And I will say that sometimes these are going to be hard to pull straight out, so you may have to pull out and give yourself a little bit of a rotating motion to kind of get them, because you do have that little, the J part kind of wanting to dig in, so if you give it a little bit of rotation, it'll help slip it out. And that's the kind of trick that I've learned. Let me see where I got this thing. I feel like I was doing something to it. Oh, come on, light. I think there's a little, there it is. I moved it up a little bit. So, yep, it's come up. Is there a button? Just touch. Actually, wait, hold light. So it seems behind there, that was stripping my view. I get that way. So it's time through the blue. Colors. But, and hold. Okay. I have to let it go. So close this time. Almost, almost. There it goes. There we go. Ooh. Let's see. Okay, a little two bar system here. So it looks like, this might be salvageable. Looks like good steel. So I got the J back here. You have this little bit that is kind of punched on to this end, so that I guess as you push down, it's kind of doing the job of a lever bar, like a Parker lever bar, like a compression bar. So kind of like trying to put as much consistent force throughout rather than just the tip, and hoping that the rest of the metal bends. So a decent bar, and I think this one can be reused. So that's excellent. I like that. Let's see if we can zoom back out. Okay. So here's that. Get these tools away. Blah blah blah. And let's go ahead and see if we can knock out the nib. And there's a little something in the section that I don't know what to make of it. It's like there's this little, I mean, some of the paint has worn off, and from what I read, I think these are enameled on the inside, so there's a little bit of loss on the inside, but there's that weird little, wonder if it's a change in crystallization of this celluloid, but just almost looks like where condensation would be, but I know it's not condensation. But let's knock it out and see. Put it there. Got a little dowel, and there's no, does that fit? Nope, that's a little tight. Let's get the small one. And oops, just knock it right out. And what is that? I don't know. Maybe it's just roughened. I assume that's on the inside. Yeah, don't know. But we'll clean it up and see what happens. We'll see if that does anything with just clean up. And here's the feed. Looks just like a smooth, simple one. It's got a couple little channels in there and flat, and yeah, this is definitely like a molded one. You can see the little, oops, sorry, it's definitely molded. You can see the little button of probably where it's twisted off whatever mold it came off of. Okay, and here's the nib. 14 karat Conklin Glider, and I really don't think you'll be able to see what I see on the nib. And he zoomed in. Maybe not, but like I said, I'm going to try to see if I can take a close-up photo, include it with the video, so we'll see what we can do about that. So as we go, I have this, and I have the cap, and I guess also the feed that I'm going to polish. Turn it down, there you go. I'm going to polish all these things, and I'm going to use my usual, start with the micro mesh and use probably the plastic polishes. I've been really into using those lately, so I'm going to polish everything up. And for this one, other than worrying about the imprint, I am not going to tape anything off because I kind of want to prep the surfaces. I'm going to use my micro mesh over all of the metal. I'm going to go ahead and take any of the gold that's left on any of these pieces, try to get them ready, and then when we come back, I will have the gold plating apparatus set up, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. And then the last bit will probably be figuring out this nib. So I'll have a little bit of time to see if I have the right Dremel attachments, maybe look around to see what videos I can see. But otherwise, I think the concept, if I don't find one, is grind off the tip as little as I can, make it flat, polish it, take off the sharp edges, and that's what I'll try to do. So I'll see you once the thing's polished up, and we'll start doing some gold plating. Thanks for this tediousness of this. I just wanted to show a full, complete restoration, a little bit before, a little bit after. And I think in the end, we'll talk about some of this Conklin pen stuff, why I still somehow like this brand, and we'll see how it writes. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, welcome back. I have a little bit of a different setup in front of you. This is my Electroplater. I got it from, maybe you can see it, but goldplating.com. They call it their universal plater, and I don't have anything to compare it to. This is my first one, and I got it probably 6 months ago, I think, maybe sometime in the summertime, and it wasn't cheap, so I feel like I really need to start getting to use it. I've used it on a couple other little projects, but for what it's done, I think it's done a good job. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I mean, I know a little bit of the science, and I kind of know why I'm doing certain things, but I'm really just kind of using this with this excellent manual that they give you about, how to set up and how to think about the different voltages and stuff, and how to use their different chemical setups. So I kind of go by the book, and so far it's done pretty well for me with maybe just a couple little modifications that I don't know why I have to do it, but sometimes I do. But let me just go ahead and jump in and show you how this glider cleaned up. And I think it actually cleaned up pretty well. So let me just show the cap. Maybe if I can zoom in a little bit. So that clip cleaned up really well, and I wound up using a little bit of sandpaper, I think 400 grit, 800 grit, and then just going onto my micro mesh with the rest of the pen. So that corrosion on the clip came off really well, and looks like maybe I'm going to assume it's stainless steel, kind of a stamp clip. This looks like it's a brass cap ring because it still has that nice gold color, and you can almost kind of say you just want to leave it like this because this is not terrible. Just some kind of reverse trim kind of options here, but overall I like the striped celluloid, and the metal cleaned up well. And I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of the barrel and the lever as well. Just kind of all came out nice and clean. I was able to do the sides a little bit. Couldn't really do the underside. That still has a little residual gold plate, or maybe yeah, gold plate, but that'll just be bonus. I'm not going to worry about that too much. But overall, I think it cleaned up well. I'm happy to get it here, and we'll see how the gold process goes. So just quickly explaining the setup. In this first one, the blue one, this is a cleaning solution, just to kind of electro clean, I guess, to get all the little impurities off so that things will kind of cascade, not stick to it. The second one, and I will say two things. So these are two different metals, presumably some stainless steel or something like that, and then the brass. So they get plated a little bit differently. And I'll do the stainless steel ones, the stamped out bits. And to do those, they need a little bit of a base. This is a nickel coating, and then on top of that, with the red one over here, is going to go actually 24 karat gold. I don't have a 14 karat gold solution, so this will get a super bright shiny gold. And if I go to my chart, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply flick it on, and it looks like for this stainless steel, starting with the cleaning solution, I'm going to go down to up to 7 volts. Boom, boom, boom. More or less. And I have this extra little alligator clip, where probably the trickiest thing is deciding how you're going to clip this to get your solution on. So I'm just going to clip it down here on the ball to start, and I can always move it just to get to finish off the tip of the ball. So I'll start there, and you can't see it, but I'll tell you what's going on. So I have my little volt reader over here. It says 7.04, it's not exact. And so when I take this solution and I touch it to the metal, it makes a circuit with the clip and the machine, and it actually jumps down, showing that I actually have a current going through this. So it is actually working, and you can kind of see it bubble up a little bit. I'm not going to zoom in because I've got my hands in here, but maybe if you have a big enough screen, you actually do see it kind of bubble. So I'm just going to go for a few passes on it. I'm going to say that might be pretty good, and I'm just going to come up with a clip a little bit further up. Yeah, I'm on the clip. And did I make contact? Yes, the voltage went down. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the ball of the clip here. Make sure it's super clean. Dum dum dum. And call that one cleaned. And I'm just going to dip it over here. I have a little solution, not solution, but a little vial of just distilled water, just to kind of rinse everything off and keep it clean. So that goes in there. And then we just move on down the line. And I've got my alligator clip. And for the next one, the nickel, it's 5 to 7 volts. So I'm just going to go split the difference and say, let's take it down to 6 and just see how that goes. And this is nickel, so I shouldn't be seeing any color change. It should still be another kind of silvery metal. So I'm just going to go for, you know, a certain amount of time, and fingers crossed to put down some nickel. Let's see if we do get a change. But clipped on, voltage went down. Now I'm just going to play around, and I think I can see it gets a little bit dull. Like it was this nice polished stainless steel, and then when you put the nickel on now, it's shiny, but it's maybe just a touch duller, and that might not be the right word. It's actually making the Conklin. Maybe you can see it, maybe not. Maybe not on camera. We'll see what it looks like on the computer, but it actually makes the Conklin stand out, showing me that there's a bit of contrast between maybe the stainless steel or whatever metal is actually it's stamped in and forming a relief now that I'm not really able to touch it. So that's pretty decent. I'm going to switch my electrode again, get a little bit further up. Okay, watch it flying, and just work on the ball. And yeah, I can see some bubbles going on with it too, so there's some electrolysis definitely happening. Get this nice little silvery kind of flatness to it, but still shiny. And I'll just kind of touch up a little bit more, but now that's pretty good. And of course, the longer you do this, the more of a plate you build up. And I'm going to dip it into the water, rinse it off, and check my chart for the gold. It says 4 to 5 volts, and this is where I've actually had to turn it up a little bit higher. Maybe it's just impatience in me, but even if I do it at the 5 volts, I feel like it doesn't really lay down, but we'll start there and we'll just see how it goes. So I'm gonna go, it's a little finicky. It just settles on 5.12, so we'll go there. And I'll clip my ball, the ball of the clip, and let's go ahead and see what happens. And hopefully you'll see. Actually, let me zoom in on this one, and we'll see if we can get it in the light and see if we can get the color change. But there we go. Okay, I'm gonna hold it right there, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think you can see a little bit of a color, a little bit of gold. So let's go with that, and we'll just kind of take it low and slow and kind of build up the plating. Kind of counting in my head how long I'm doing this so I can kind of match the ball. Yeah, and I'm not expecting this to kind of show up super bright gold. It'll need a little polishing to really make it pop, but I'm actually seeing the yellow kind of build up a decent amount. Let's see, maybe you can see the glint of that ball compared to up here now. Maybe when I switch the electrode we'll get a little bit more. It's a bit of a mess. I'm kind of dripping it down onto the electrode, so I'll have to take some sandpaper eventually and kind of clean that up a little bit. And I'm getting on my hands, and it'll leave a little residue. Like my hands do get a little bit dry. Oops, sorry, came off camera. After doing this, but you know, I should wear some gloves. Okay. Let's see what we do there. Yeah. I think you can kind of see the transition between there and the still kind of silvery ball. Yeah. I'm sorry for my voice. I think I picked something up. It was in my nose, my sinuses for a day or so, and now it's got to move down my throat. So a little pharyngitis, I guess. But it doesn't hurt. I'm staying away from people, and all the more reason just to kind of work on some videos inside and just make use of my time that way. So sorry about my voice. And we'll keep rubbing there. Yep, got a good connection. My voltmeter is going down, or my voltmeter, or however you want to call it. It just says output, I guess. Is jumping down from 5 down to about 3.8 or so. Well, that's pretty good. Apparently one of the things you can do if you have the voltage up too high, almost think it's starting there, but maybe it's just metal showing through, is you can almost get like these, it darkens, it's like a burn mark, which is maybe why they have a lower. I can maybe even turn this down just a touch, get into the 4 range, just see if that does anything. Oh, sorry, I keep going off camera. I keep looking at the thing, so I'm not really looking at my screen on the camera. Yeah, trying to get in the right focus. So that's pretty good. I'm kind of happy with that. The only thing I think I could do a little bit better is maybe try to get the bottom of that ball, just like kind of let it touch in that area if I could. I mean, it's going to be hard to squeeze into, but maybe just shove a tip in there. I don't think I want it to stop moving. I don't really want to cause something that's going to build up and just kind of cause a burning mark, but I just wanted to get touched in there. Maybe I shouldn't spend too much time, because that bottom of the ball is the first thing that's going to lose plating probably. Well, I don't know. Maybe who really puts these things in their shirt anymore? You know, like in a pocket. I mean, I have my pen case actually just off to my right, and I actually don't really clip them into the holder. I just let them rest inside, let the cap cover it up. So I don't know if people really use it at clips like they used to. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just kidding myself, but okay, there's a good start. Dang it, I'm so sorry for this focus. There's so much for it to focus on. But we've got some gold on there, and we'll see how it goes. And since I've got this set up, I'll go ahead and do the lever for us, and then I'll just switch it up and do the brass. And all the brass one does different is you don't need to plate with the copper. I'm just going to swap this solution out for, this is called a surface activator. So again, not sure what's going on here. Maybe it's a little bit of acid. Does have a pH on it. This is more of an acid, just to kind of make the reaction go. Don't know. I have to read up on it, but let's go ahead and do the same thing, really. So we're going to go ahead and clip, and I will start. I'll start at the tip and just going to do the same thing. So we will use the. Gotta move this guy back up. What was that? It was 7 volts. Moving back up to 7. Okay. And we'll just do a quick cleaning. Oh, that's very juicy. My bad. Clean, clean, clean. Don't forget the sides. Got some fizzing bubbles. And the voltage is going down. Move it up just a touch and get the, come here buddy. Yeah, I'll grab it on the side, why not? And then I will just touch the tip here. Clean, clean, clean. Clean, clean, clean. We'll call that one clean. I'll dip it in the DI water. Come back, clip the tip. And we'll do the nickel plate. They call it nickel strike. So we'll just do this. Let me zoom in so we can see stuff again. And get that out of the focus. Maybe, where are we? Just, yeah, there we go. Dang, sorry, this is just so close up, but let's see. Do I see it getting that dull? Yeah, 5 to 7 pulse. Let me move it down just a touch. It's on the high end of the voltage. Give us some good passes. Oops. Yeah, that was about to happen. That was my oops. Okay. Let's work on the sides. Ooh. 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 Yeah. I feel the current in my fingers when I make a contact with that alligator clip. It's like sticking your tongue on a 9-volt. Let's work on the other side. It keeps dangling. Oh, sorry, there we go. And then we'll move this one more time. Yeah, I think it worked. I can see a little bit of dullness compared to the tip. Again, I'm not gonna try to focus on it. I'm giving you guys enough of a headache. Do some good rubbing down there. Okay, let's call that one done. Okay, and we're gonna go down to, what was it? The gold was 4 to 5. I'll take it down to 5.12 is what I was doing, and that was pretty good. Okay, and 5.1, and it's going down. So let's just move it around and see if we can see. Yeah, I see it going on. Try to get it down in there where that lever wants to hide, but yeah. This one's actually pretty noticeable. Noticeable, sorry, I'm even muttering. Yeah, dang it, okay. I'll stop doing that, but we'll see the finished product here in a minute. I'll get my jeweler's cloth and we'll just give it a little buff and we'll see what it does. And then we'll just be onto the brass. And we'll resack it, get the Renaissance wax on, and finally deal with that nib. And that'll probably be a tomorrow project, because right now it's about the middle of the night. It's probably 12:30, 1 o'clock my time. I just tend to be a bit of a night owl and don't mind throwing my sleep schedule off, so I'm not sure if I should, like, I'm doing this fast, so again, I don't know if I should just be slow and steady like that. So let me actually just do that now that I'm questioning it. Because it's a matter of contact. Why not make slow, steady contact, huh? Yeah. Okay. There we go. And it looks like some of the plating already happened because it did kind of drip down while I was touching it, so it looks like the tip is already a little bit plated. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and rinse this guy off and see if I can give it a polish. And I'm going to apologize. I had to run over to my desk real quick. I don't have my jeweler's cloth on me, so I'll let it run for just a second. Okay, I'm back, and I have this little jeweler's cloth, polishing cloth from Anderson Pens. I do have a sun cloth, which I really do like. Just it wasn't super handy, and I didn't want to waste time looking for it. So let's see if I can move this for a second. Let's go ahead and work on this clip and see what happens. So it shouldn't have to wait. It should just be there right away. I mean, it's electroplated, so it's not like a set time or a cure time. Let's just see. If I take this little buffing cloth, what can I do with it? wonder if the semichrome would be a good idea here, or those micro polishes that I also get. Okay, I see it's starting to polish up. There we go. I also wonder, maybe, well, the brass is already kind of golden itself, but I wonder if I should have polished the copper, or not copper, the nickel, to see if I had a shiny base coat more or less, if that would make it pop a little bit more. But as you can see, just doing it with the cloth is already getting a shine, the nice gold shine to it. So this does work, but I wonder if I should have polished that that nickel. I'll look into that. Yeah. I might use those nano polishes just to kind of really see if I can get this to shine up like a good shiny gold, like just 24 karat. It should look popping. And the more I use this cloth, the more shine I am getting out of it. Okay, so this was success. Yeah. So I will finish here. I'm going to go ahead and switch over and do the brass ring here, and I won't leave you on the line for that. This itself took a while, but I'm glad to show it to you. So I'll go ahead and do the brass ring. I'll get everything put together. I don't think I need to. Well, maybe I will. Just go ahead and do the sacking and putting of the J-bar back in. So I might as well just do everything back on camera and really make this a full video. So we'll get it put back together, and then we'll be working on that nib, and then we'll see how these things do. So this pen does. So I'll see you, I guess, when I see you. Okay, so here we are. I have the nib itself cleaned up, and I took a few pictures of it to try to show the tip and just kind of demonstrate how there is a chip in one of the teeth, and that makes making this an italic worthwhile. And I'm going to try just to hold it up to the focus real quick just to see if anything happens, but I will put the pictures up and try to include them in the video. Don't know if the white background helps or not, but boom, boom, boom. Did that help? Can I zoom in? Now that the thing is shiny, and maybe you can, hopefully you can see just the kind of chipness of that, but take my word for it otherwise. So I went ahead and cleaned this thing. I made sure the tines were aligned and that we have a good, nice, even slit through here. So hopefully this will be good for ink flow. So I'm going a little bit blind just because I can't use it first to say I want to change it. It's damaged, so I can't use it. But I went through a few sources online. I'll include it in the description, but there are a couple of websites I used. Pen something, it'll be down there, Doodlebud, a couple others, just kind of see the general gist of everything. And so what I decided to do is kind of use a combination of practices, because the idea is actually fairly straightforward. I am going to take this nib, I'll draw it out, and coincidentally, here's the other glider that I've actually been using, and it's pretty good. It's got some plating loss definitely on the clip, the gold band. Actually has some cool texture on it, but again, this one also is loose, but the gold's mostly on there, and the lever is mostly intact as well. But the magic of this one, let's see, because I got these shaking around, let me get some ink off, is it does have the nice cushion point. So if I were just do a few lines, kind of some, oh, I'm getting some shadow. Let's see. I can draw this nice little curly Q thing and get a little bit, a decent amount of flex out of this thing. And so very smooth, very flexy rider. So the cushion point is the saving grace of this otherwise probably cheaply made pen. So if I'm going to draw out well, this shadow is really bad. Let me see if I can get the light moved. Not the ideal setting. I am at a different table just to kind of have more space, so please bear with me, and I'll try to move the camera so you can see some of the stuff I do. So if I draw out what this nib looks like to me under the loop, is if I do a profile, you got the top, and you've got a little flare up, a flare down, and it kind of scoops back up to make the tine itself, and then you kind of get the profile as it goes out. Just like that. Let's see if I can move this and zoom in. So yeah, here's my ultimate tine. So I've got this to deal with, and there is at some point, and I think the right side of tine said it is kind of double layered. So you've got the left tine that's out here, right tine that's down here, and it's a little bit jagged in between. And so to make this an italic, and I'll make it a cursive italic, which means slightly softer edges, so hopefully it won't dig into the paper. The general idea is to get rid of metal that's going to make the top flat and the bottom flat. So I'm basically shaving off this area and a little bit of this area. So you're going to go from this to something like this as it wings out, and maybe soften that edge just a little bit, soften the edges. So you're just getting rid of extra material. And there are a few ways to do it. They all pretty much included at some point micro mesh or some kind of sanding, whetstone kind of process. You can do it strictly with the whetstone, and if you want to use a Dremel tool that can, like, you know, go in and make some cuts, that's also a possibility, but again, probably a little harder, a little faster. Oh, just made that worse. Oh well, we'll leave that. Oh, I am slapping this around. Let me get a fresh piece of paper. I'm kind of throwing ink around. Let's see. Do this. So I did some shopping today, and I got a couple stones. I'm not going to do the Dremel method because this is a gold nib and it is soft, so hopefully I'll get some good response to it. But I have a couple stones. I'm not sure if I need all three, but I went and got them. So this is a double-sided one, and sadly I don't have numbers on these grits. I'm just feeling it. This is the coarse side, this is a fine side, and I have a little pocket one that's going to be somewhere in between. So I might just need this, but I might take it from coarse to medium to fine. We'll see how aggressive these are on the nib. I have a little bit of water for the lubrication on the stone. And I have my loop because I will be doing a lot of checking. I'll be less aggressive since I'm kind of fairly doing this for the first time in this method. I'm going to make a few strokes, kind of check my progress. So this might be a little bit long, and I will certainly speed up the video just to make sure that it doesn't get too bad. And of course, for the final part, which I might just take a break in the filming, because I'm going to do this with the nib out of the pen. So when I finally get to the point where I think this looks good, I will put it in the pen, finish all the inking, not the inking, but the sacking and putting the J-bar in, and then come back with micro mesh and do any kind of fine tuning that I want to do as far as adjusting the smoothness of this thing. So with that in mind, I'm going to take the coarse side to do some rapid removal of the bits of metal on the tip. So I'm going to try to do the bottom, take off that, and the top to take off that. And so to do it, and here's what I drew. It's just the same thing I kind of said before. An arrow to the top, arrow to the bottom, just to smooth those areas of the tines off. So to do that, I'm going to take my whetstones, and appropriately, I'm going to move my pad. This is going to be messy. Yeah, just dip it, why not? Dip it in the water to make it wet for some lubrication. Go to both sides. Okay. And the idea would be to make this a nice flat cut in the tines. I'm going to hold this perpendicular to the nib block. I just kind of take horizontal swipes. Now I have no idea how aggressive this is going to be, so I'm going to be checking quite frequently to see what I've got. And wow, that is aggressive. Just taking a quick peek, it's already pretty much there, so I might take another stroke or two. And that we'll see how that starts. So I'm going to take that, double check it one more time, and I think I'm going to flip it up to the top and start working on the top, just so that I can move from the coarse stone maybe to the medium or the fine stone, because this is quite aggressive. And I think looking at it, there's a little bit more that I can take, so I might take a couple more swipes. I'm going to make sure that this is parallel. One. Putting a little bit of pressure on that tine just to kind of focus the pressure where I want. Double check. Maybe just a few touches more, so. That's pretty good. Now I might actually skip that medium one, because the fine one will probably do a little bit of smoothing on this. Yeah. Let me go ahead and take a couple passes on top. And we'll see if we get it to where I think it's going to be okay. And then we can work on the tip itself. Okay, I did 3 for that. I'm only going one way because I found that when I did both ways it kind of caught, so I'm just kind of doing slow controlled motions in one plane. Look head on for a second as well. It's looking pretty good actually. I'm gonna do a few more passes. A little bit of pressure just on the tip. I'm gonna come down here one more time. 1, 2 more times. Yeah, that actually feels pretty good. I'm going to start the stop. Leave it there. I'm going to progress on to the tip, because so far, pull this back, what I've done is, in my impression, I've made it flat, but now there's that little bit of here with the jaggedness, so I need to come in a perpendicular plane and get that part nice and flat. So I'm going to show you the pivot the camera. So there we go. So I made the top and bottom flat to what I think. So now I'm going to come down and make it a perpendicular to make the tip flat. And that's not a flat drawing, but trust me, I'm trying to go for flat. All right. And I'm going to stick with this coarse one. Bring it back. Dip the nib. And this one I'm going to hold perpendicular. I'm going to hold it fairly close down so I can apply even pressure. And I'm going to try to look at it from the side so that I can see up and down, and same thing. I'm just going to take a few, 4, 5 initial swipes just to get it started. I'm going to check it out with my loop. Okay, it's definitely taking stuff off. I need to hold a little bit to one side. I'm a little bit off parallel. And so my left tine, as I look down, is a little higher up than the other one. So I need to do a little bit better job of holding it straight up and down. But that's working. I think I'm already getting beyond the chipped part of the nib. So let's do this. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm gonna do a loop. I've done a little bit better, but I think I need to really focus on one particular tine. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a tilt to that left tine and now come back to hopefully center. And check it again after a few more. Okay, that's even better. I wonder if there was some kind of jig or something that would actually help it be flat. I'm gonna hold it so I can see. That's probably what I should have been doing. I had an angle so I can see up into my eye line. And this actually comes to a fairly fine point, so I can probably do this a little bit to kind of get a slightly larger italic. So this is actually kind of forgiving in that respect. I can take a decent amount off to get to a level of italic that I'd actually want. And looking under the loop, definitely have some burrs that will have to be cleaned off. But it's looking pretty darn flat, and if it's off a little, I'll probably be able to use either the medium or the fine side to really kind of fine tune it a little bit. So let me go ahead. I'm gonna re-wet my stone a little bit. Not sure what the feeling should be, but you know, for these wet stones, wet is gonna be better. So let me go ahead and do that. Block back down. I'm going to hold it to my eye level, perpendicular. Oh, that does feel better. Yeah, it didn't need more water. It's sliding a little more smoothly than it had been. As I say that. Maybe I'm putting too much pressure on it. Okay. Should have brought a ruler over here just to see if I can find a half a millimeter, just kind of gauge where I am. So right now it's just eyeballing it. Oops. Okay. 9, 10. I think that was 10. Okay. Loop it. It's looking pretty good. And just for conservative sake, I'm going to leave it right there. I don't want to take too much off. So if I want to play with it in the future, I can. And I'm trying to see just if there's any point. I think I want to do just a little bit more. That left tine, maybe I'm not sitting straight, but I feel like that left tine just stays a little bit taller than the right. So I'm going to lean it a little bit to the left just to make sure I'm on that tine. And that looks pretty darn good. I'm going to leave it there. And you know what? I have a medium. So let's go ahead and use the medium a little bit. Let's get that sucker wet. And since there's burrs on this now, and I'm kind of just dropping down in size, what I'm probably going to do is do the same thing. Kind of start with just getting the top and bottom. 3, 4, kind of just deburring it, working it down. I'm going to do the top. And this is nice because I can just put my thumb on it, feel it's flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And double check. And it looks pretty good. I'm liking that so far. And now I'm going to do the tip. Just kind of work it down. And I'll do the same thing with the fine. So let me hold it at the angle of my eyesight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, double check, make sure I didn't do anything too aggressive. Actually looks still pretty good. The burrs are less. It still looks pretty flat. Top, bottom, and across the nib. Yeah. So I'm gonna, let me just do a couple more. Let me actually do one this way, just to see. Take a burr off, kind of start flat, and then work it up a little bit. Take some of these extra burrs. Okay. It's going to start the rounding process a little bit. Okay. Making sure, I'm looking at it now just to make sure that as I'm doing this, I'm not getting it out of alignment. Looks like my alignment's still pretty darn good. So I haven't put undue stress on one tine or another. Because that to me could be a point of issue, I think. So I'm going to go down and do my horizontal again one more time on this medium one. Well, one more. Okay. Okay. It's pretty good. I like it. Got the burrs, but I'm going to come down now to the fine. Redip it for the fine. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the flats, the ups and downs, top and bottom. Nice and slow. Then, okay. Check it with the loop. Still happy with that. And I'm going to turn it sideways. And I'm going to do my parallel, my perpendicular, I mean. Okay. Okay. Double check. Pretty flat, I'm liking it. Do it a few more times. 1, 2, 3. There's light to moderate pressure. There's a little bit of pressure on it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to do is try to deburr a little bit. So a little bit of water, and just in all the ways and all the planes, I'm going to do a little bit of, sorry for the shadow, but what I'm going to do is start at a shallow angle. Maybe I should hold it this way. Start at a shallow angle, and then as I bring it back, bring it up to kind of deburr it. 2, 3, 4, to the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do this for a little bit. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Just to make sure it's not super jagged on top, bottom, or sides. And take the loop. See what I have. That's pretty good. I'm going to do one more thing because I was a little probably too aggressive on the shoulders. So I'm going to take a few soft, easy passes. Try to get a little flatter on the tip just to kind of get those shoulders again, or reduce those shoulders. Just a few quick ones. That's actually working out pretty well. I can do another couple because I'm liking how it's going. 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. I'm liking this a lot. So I think that's all for the rough that I'm going to do. And what I will do now is I'll go ahead and finish the pen. I'm going to resack it, and I'll take a break and we'll do this on camera, but I'm going to resack it so that I can get some ink in the pen and then start doing, like, seeing how it writes on the paper, and then seeing what adjustments I need to do with my micro mesh. And so this is my first one doing it with these stones, so hopefully I wasn't too aggressive and it'll be passable, but we'll see what happens. But I'll take a break and I'll come back once I've got, well, I guess I have to do the sacking and everything on screen. So we'll come back, do that, and then we'll let everything dry so that I can put some ink in the pen, and we'll start doing some writing stuff. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to leave the camera at an angle since we've kind of done this on some other videos. And I'm just going to kind of do this and hopefully you see, I know my setup's not ideal, but just for this video, I used the bigger table. So let's go ahead and get this thing sacked. And as you can see, the sack of a 16 sack, which this is pretty much the size of that, of the barrel. So really all I think I'm going to do is subtract out that little bit of the section above the nipple, maybe just a touch more, and I'll cut that down. So this is going to be hopefully a pretty good capacity if that J-bar works really well. There we go, cut that flat, open it up, and I'll go ahead and, because I think we're done. No, I did one more thing in the meantime. I kind of took my micro mesh and my metal polishes and the micro polishes, and I repolished up the nib to kind of take away some of the extra scratch marks that I got from the sharpening stone. Oh, so sorry. There we go. So overall it looks pretty good. I might kind of go back a little bit more with the metal polish, but overall I think I got most of the nicks out and it looks pretty good overall. Under the loop, I'm actually really quite happy with what I did. So let's put this onto the feed and we'll slip it into the section, and yeah, so that's what I'm left with as far as beyond the feed. It might have been useful just to keep it on the feed while I did this, just to kind of see how much, because I could have got dangerously close to that, and that leaves me some material, so I'm hopeful this will be a good performer. And I still have a decent amount of ink channel and breather hole, so I don't think it's too short, just I'm definitely pushing it, I think. So leaving it on the feed while I did all the shaping probably would have been a slightly better idea. Let's go ahead and take our shellac. Put it on the nipple. And we shall just go ahead and slip the sack on, just roughly like that. Give it a twirl. Whatever comes out, I'm going to stick it up there and even do a little bit of a bead around the top, pushing it in and wiping it off, because this was a tight fit section, so I don't need to have any shellac taking up any more space on that section to make it any tighter to get in or off. So let's go ahead and put the J-bar back in. And this really is just a matter of, here's my lever. There are a couple little lever feet down there. You can't really see it, but wherever the bottom of that lever will be, I'm going to line up my bar with that and kind of just slide it in, and this hopefully should just self-center. It's going. It's touched the lever, it's kind of made a little click, so I know it's kind of on track. I'm going to take my little alligator forceps here and go ahead and just push it straight back until it stops. And it stopped. And I'm going to just hold it to the light, push the bar down, and yes, it's firmly centered on it, and it's pushing it down, so that's a good J-bar insertion. Yeah, I like it. And the last thing to do is, got this tied down, and I will get my towel, which I left right over here, and get this section seated, because I think we're basically done. I just need to fine tune the nib and put the Renaissance wax on it, and this thing is good. And then we can move back over to my desk where the light's a little bit better arranged and we can check it out fully. So I'm just going to spray the talc on, and I'm going to stick it in, line the top of the nib with my lever, and pop it in. Firm, tight, but not overly tight. That actually went in pretty well. Okay, so let's do that. And I think we'll just let that cure for a little bit so that I can fill the pen, because I'm going to want to do the next part with ink flowing. And we'll move over to the table, we'll have some better light, and then we'll just go right into talking about it, and I'll kind of show it off with some better light and show you how the gold polished up. So one more quick break, and we'll come back in a few hours once that shellac is dried. Alright, welcome back to the desk where the light is better and hopefully we can see this pen for all it's worth. So let's kind of pick it up, take a gander. So I went ahead and did the Renaissance wax and just kind of did one going over with my nice sun cloth. And I think it turned out really well. I mean, most of the fine wear is gone. It shined up super well. And as we can see, the trim turned out pretty well too. Now I've been handling it for a little bit. Let's put some shine back on that clip. There we go. You can see the Conklin show up a little bit better. Now the metal's not perfect, like there are still pits and things, and so the plating doesn't cover anything up. It just, you know, plates, and if you have a pit, you have a pit. So aside from some imperfections in the metal that are just kind of consequence of the corrosion that sat on it, I mean, things look pretty good. The clip, which was, not clip, but the cap ring, which was brass, I'm pretty sure did do some plating because it has a brighter yellow to it, and it kind of matches the lever and the clip, so I think it really did plate. And the lever itself looks pretty good. Again, imperfections in the metal are still visible, like there's a little bit of a worn, rougher spot that just never came out on the very tip of that lever. And then we move it and we have nice gold plating on the sides as well. So overall it turned out pretty well. Let me go ahead and uncap this thing, give the nib a little buff for you, and let's show you what we got. So there you go. You definitely see the Conklin Toledo. Got a little something on it. Yeah. Oh, probably a piece of cloth. I'll get that in a bit. Made in USA, or just USA, 14 karat. And there we have, dare I focus, our italic nib, which looks pretty good. Come to the back. It's a little bit beyond the feed. Maybe this is a good way to see kind of a flattened tip, a little bit of rounding on the sides, just as a cursive italic rather than a straight italic, which would just be 90, 90, 90 with all kinds of edges on it. Yeah, and of course, I did kind of have this in ink a little bit ago, so there's a little bit of ink kind of dripping out. The section did have a lot of the paint come off, even though I tried to be gentle with it, so you can kind of see some ambering through it. And I have another one where it was really bad, so I just took all of it off, so I have a nice kind of clear amber section, which I thought was kind of cool. So the only thing I would do if I really wanted to get this back, I would need to see if anybody would leave a comment to see what kind of enamel, what kind of paint would be a suitable substitute or replacement to kind of get the section looking back to original black with a little bit of ink view to it. So I'd be interested in doing that just to kind of see how close I can get to the original. But overall, I think the pen turned out really well. I'm really happy with this one. So now we just have to see what we're going to do about this nib. And I have not done any micro meshing with it. I just kind of touched the ink just to make sure it wasn't going to rip at my paper, and it did okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use this brown Colorverse copy break ink. And let's go ahead and give it a few plunges. Let me zoom out. Not plunges, but strokes of the lever, I guess. Got some bubbles. 2, 3, 4. Just do 4, just to see if I can squeeze out as much air as I can. I'm gonna take a paper towel, wipe it down. Well, actually, before I do that, let's see how much it filled. Okay, ready? Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, let's just give it a single stroke. And we'll wipe it off again, we'll see what we can do. Okay. Let's just kind of see, and do we even have a ruler? Let's see. Can I even see what kind of millimeter I got out of this thing? I'm gonna hold it up, and it looks like maybe about a millimeter, just above or just below. So I think just a bit bigger than a millimeter, so maybe 1.0, 1.1. This is what I'll say. I don't have a chart to kind of compare it to, but just holding it up looks pretty good. And let's do some downstrokes and some side strokes and see what kind of variation we get. So down, 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 and this is without pressure. Got a little ink on me. Ooh, yeah, that side is very narrow. I wonder if doing some polishing or some smoothing is going to make that any less. That is a pretty stark difference. I mean, it's a line. So let's see what happens if I do a little bit of writing with it, just to kind of see. Yeah, you can see it. Let's see. Let's do a nice. Yeah. Very narrow, then wide. And I put a little bit of pressure on it, so let me try to do it without any extra hand pressure. Just the weight of the pen. Yeah. It's a pretty stark difference. That's going to be very small. And let's see. If I were to do a figure 8, looks like in all directions it's doing pretty well. A little bit, maybe a skip, maybe I rolled it. And honestly, it feels pretty good. I'm just going to start to see, just to show a little bit of smoothing, and since there's not much going on, I'm actually going to just keep it with this micro mesh pen. I'm going to use the 12,000 and just kind of do, hold it like I would hold it. So let me kind of get around the camera and see if I can do it honestly. And I would hold it like this with this angle, and I'm just going to do some figure 8s. I'm going to do a figure 8, so rolling it to the left, figure 8, slightly rolling it to the right. I might even just do a figure 8 with it kind of more or less up and down. And this is just me trying to wear off any little things, and I'm going to do little circles, using the wetness of the ink to lubricate it so it'll slide. Just taking off any little things, and it's just going to be a little more complete with my hand. So again, figure 8, tilted figure 8, figure 8 the other way, and a little bit up. I'm going to do it reverse writing 8. Yeah, it actually feels pretty good. It's not digging. And I might even just flick the sides a little bit. But that's pretty good. I mean, I started from a strong point. Alright, so let's see. Conklin Glider. And this is actually pretty gliding. I like this a lot. So if I were to, can you see? Yep. See if I can do my name. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. I am very happy for my first real attempt with like a whetstone. I mean, all I've done before is kind of used starting out with coarse micro mesh and just doing the same thing, essentially just kind of like just filing off that tip. I've gotten pretty decent results, and this is the first time, because I actually looked it up a little bit better, that I actually did the top and the bottom thing, really trying to get just a slender rectangular piece of metal, because otherwise before I was just doing this, and I got lucky, and maybe they weren't perfect, but they would work. But this is quite the nice writer, so I like it. And so let me just chat a little bit. I mean, I read about them a couple days ago, so hopefully I've got a little bit of memory left. And I'll just kind of move up to save the paper. So I think, you know, so Conklin was the original Toledo company, Toledo, Ohio, and they're mostly known for the crisp. I'm sorry, I'm messing with my camera to get it steady, but you know, so Conklin out of Toledo, their biggest claim to fame, I think it said, and I'd have to double check, but it's the first self-filling mechanism, and that was the crescent filler, and so they rode that popularity for a long time. And I think I read that they didn't really even go to lever fillers, a little bit behind the times, until about 1920. So they were late to the game. And so once riding the high success for the 1890s, I think when they were formed, late 1880s, early 1890s, somewhere around that time frame, they were like syringe fillers or the crescent filler, and then finally they got into lever fillers. And they had a couple other little innovations in the 20s into the 30s before they kind of like lagged behind the big five. You know, they had the Nozac, which is a kind of a mumbled Nosac, which is a knob filler, like a little piston filler, so that was kind of ahead of its time, one of the first few to have that. They had good success with the Endura, and I have some of those, and I love this pen line for some odd reason. Some good colors, good shapes, and just overall, I would have some of those to clean up, but I will do some Enduras. What else did they have? This in the kind of the larger version, they had this, I might not spell this right, symmetric. They had a funny way of spelling symmetric, and that was another very popular lever filler for them for a while. But apparently by the 1930s, they weren't doing so great because they just didn't have the innovations and like Parker and Schaefer and Eversharp were doing with their stylings. I mean, they stayed pretty classic, these kind of cigar-shaped pens. So about 1938, they were sold to a Chicago company. So they sold the name, they sold the warehouse and the parts and all the pieces. So they just kind of continued on through the late 1940s, and I wish I had better dates, but I didn't write down my notes. I'm just going by memory. And they didn't do so well. They didn't really innovate. I mean, they came out with a few pens, and this is probably the one most people remember, the Glider. Actually, I should show you. I actually have this out because this is what a advertisement for the Glider would have been. So it's easy to write with a Conklin, and the selling point, even though I said before these were just, you know, celluloid, some poorly plated trim, you had the clip, which was no longer spring loaded, it was just kind of bolted in, and this generic looking clip. I mean, other than the cool little colors and the striated pattern, the only thing going for it was the cushion point, C-U-S-H-O-N, and these do write really well, and that's what my other pen had, the blue one that I was just using in the other section, and I do like these a lot, and maybe that's why I've gotten several of them. But if it weren't for the nib, apparently most critiques of these pens say like, meh, they're fine. I mean, on the cheaper end, don't expect anything trim-wise to last, and if it weren't for the nib, unless you couldn't afford it, don't worry too much about these pens. So collectively, if they have the cushion point, they do a little bit better. But I think this company just kind of stumbled along, just kept going till about the late 1940s, maybe early 1950s. And then it was kaput. And now it's been revived a couple times, I think. Now it's like made in Italy, and there are some good pens there, and I have a couple of the modern ones, just because I really like the name recognition and the old, you know, vintage brand of it. So, what else can I say? As far as just commenting on the pen itself, I mean, it's a pretty decent size. This seems to be pretty comfortable to hold. If I take a quick measurement, uncapped, I'm going to get about 4.5 inches, oh, just shy of it. So if I hadn't messed with the nib, it'd probably be just over 4.5 inches. But with my little italic, it's about 4.5, and so it holds pretty well, actually. I mean, it sits in the crook of my hand. It's not too small, it's not oversized, it's just comfortable. I can feel these a little bit. I can hold it here in this kind of scooped out classic section, but I do, if I wander back, I do feel these sharp threads, which I guess is kind of good. I mean, these threads have held up over time, so they definitely, that was a well-made part of it. Let's see how long. One turn, like 1 3/4 turn, so decently deep and sturdy threads. What else? I mean, actually kind of like this lever. It's not too hard to get into. I can kind of get a fingernail under there, and it's kind of slim. I mean, nothing faulting that. It's not as super eye-catching, but I think it kind of oblong taper kind of goes with the pen. So to me, it's a nice design. It's a bit vintage. I mean, it's came out in the 30s, 40s, so it wasn't really keeping pace with the Parker 51, anything from Eversharp or Waterman. So I mean, they're basic. Their designs are pretty basic, but there's nothing wrong with it. If it works well and it catches your eye, why not? It posts, not super deeply, but it's secure, so you really could put it on. And it's celluloid with very little trim, so it really doesn't add anything. There's no real back weight to it, so I could see it going this way. But what else can I say? The clip, pretty tight, so might have to go on like a thin shirt pocket, so you probably would clip this onto too many things. What else can I say? I mean, the nib itself, now that I've messed with it, I mean, I don't know what it originally felt like, and I think this has got a little bit of springiness to it, so my sense is that would have been a springy nib, maybe not a flexy nib. And just looking at the old point, it's probably going to be a fine. But being a gold nib, it does seem to be well made. I was able to grind it down easily, and now I have this very smooth italic. And it looks like, oh, maybe we're just playing with it the sideways. Maybe a little bit bigger, a little more noticeable. But, yeah. And so, well, probably not a high tier pen. This could be a good everyday pen. I mean, classic, cool. You can get a few different colors, red, blue, green, this yellowy one. The trim, you're going to get plus minus quality of the trim when you find one. And the section, that's probably the biggest failing. Like, yeah, clearly I can fix this up, but the section, cheaply painted, it easily comes off. And there is that still little opacity in there. I kept looking in to see, is that like dried celluloid, is it going to crumble out? But no, it was smooth in there. So I don't know if that's just some inclusion or some change over time, but it doesn't seem to be impacting it. So as far as I can tell, I mean, it's still a good section. I do wish the feed and the nib were a little bit bigger. I mean, it's sitting only just down into there, so there's not much holding it. So if this were any loose, things would wiggle out, and you can't probably put too much pressure on it. Not that you would need to. But sometimes I feel like a nice deeper nib into the section somehow just makes me feel more secure, and whether that's justified or not, I don't know. And with a size 16 sack and that nice double J-bar, which kind of compresses more than just a generic J-bar would, sounds like the ink capacity is going to be pretty decent. So these would be good everyday ones. I mean, these are the cheap kind that no one really values unless you have a cushion point, so you can probably get these at a pretty good price. If you can kind of keep a lookout for trim that's not too bad, you can clean these up and probably get a good everyday writer conversation piece slash just a piece of, you know, Americana that, you know, some people fancy like I do. So I think overall, not a bad pen. Pretty standard, no bells and whistles, but probably good nibs if they were the original nibs. And I don't know if these came with steel nibs at all, but all the examples I've had have had the cushion point, and now apparently this kind of Conklin Toledo nib, just kind of using up old stock. But that's it, and I love these things, and I have a few more, so maybe I should pull this out. If I do more on Conklin, I'll pull out my other examples of these. I think I have a blue one, another one like this in varying states, and now that I know these things clean up well and I can do the plating, I might make these all come back to life and be just like this one. But I'm happy with this nib, and I would say any take-home points for this guy, being a gold nib, this was very soft, so there are many videos out there, and I'll include some links that use Dremel tools or other cutting tools. This is soft, so if you're going to explore it, maybe be super gentle with Dremel tools, but I was able to quickly and easily do this with just, micro mesh or a whetstone. So slow, just a few strokes at a time to check your work. Be mindful of your positioning so that you know perpendicular, and once you make a stroke or two, make sure that you're staying perpendicular. What else? I think that's it. I think the benefit of these gold nibs are they're so soft you can make minor changes, major changes with minor effort. So just slow and steady, and maybe don't do what I did, but maybe practice like they were doing online with Jinhaos and some generic steel ones before you step up here. But I don't have Jinhaos, and I don't have a lot of just generic nibs, so I figured I've done it with micromesh, I could do it with the pads, and luckily I was correct. So thanks for the little diversion. I think the next video will be the Parker 61. I just kind of wanted to break the monotony of sticking with the formula, and maybe I'll do more of these. I like kind of digging out old pens and just ones that aren't as common or well known and talking about them. And every now and then, I just want to clean something. I see it's like, oh, I want to see that one shine. So every now and then I'll probably give into it and start getting into my collection and some of the ones I have backlogged. But thanks for tuning in. I'm sure this is going to be a stupidly long video. I'll edit it up, just kind of speed some things up. But let me know what you think. See if you like the more detailed stuff. And give me any comments. Let me know if there's any products you know, or ways to do some better gold plating. If there's any adhesives that you can kind of sneak in there to kind of get a band more stabilized. And is there any kind of enamel or kind of paint that I could use to refurbish this section to really get something to look original? So leave some comments, subscribe. Happy to have more followers and just kind of get more content figured out for everyone. And I guess I'll see you next time. Bye.